Most people destroy their power in public long before they even realize they had any. They think the world is neutral, that everyone's too busy to notice them, that their words, gestures, and reactions float away unnoticed. But the truth is, every glance, every motion, every silence is recorded by the people around you. You're constantly being measured, ranked, and categorized in invisible hierarchies that determine who's respected, who's ignored, and who's quietly stepped on. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. The public eye is not a mirror, it's a scale. It doesn't reflect you, it weighs you. And the moment you start leaking your composure, your value begins to drop. Imagine walking into a room where everyone's trying to be liked. They overtalk, over-explain, overreact. The loudest one thinks he's winning the crowd, but he's really just showing his hunger for approval. The quiet one, meanwhile, says almost nothing, but everyone feels his gravity. That's the Machiavellian paradox. Power doesn't shout. It stays still long enough for others to lean in. When you move through public spaces, you're not just existing, you're performing, whether you want to or not. Every word, gesture, and tone tells people how to treat you. But most people perform unconsciously. They play the part of the desperate, the apologetic, the harmless. They don't realize that in public, control isn't about dominating, it's about restraint. Your strength comes not from what you project, but from what you protect. So let's look at the 15 public behaviors that quietly dismantle your presence. The ones Machiavelli would have warned his prince to never display. The first, explaining yourself too much. It's such a common habit that it feels harmless, even polite. You're late to a meeting and you start giving reasons. You're asked why you made a decision and you go on for 5 minutes justifying it. But every explanation beyond necessity makes you smaller. It signals you're not sure you have the right to act freely. Machiavelli would say if your choice is just, it justifies itself. The more you explain, the more authority you surrender. Those in power give reasons only when they choose to, not because they fear judgment. The more comfortable you become with silence after a decision, the more others start to interpret your restraint as confidence. They may not even agree with you, but they'll respect that you don't bend under their questioning. The second, public over-apologizing. Saying sorry once for an error is strength. Saying it twice is awareness. Saying it 3 times becomes submission. The moment your language begins to orbit around others' approval, you've lost control of the frame. Machiavelli believed that mercy should be given strategically, never habitually. And the same applies to apology. Constantly apologizing for existing, interrupting, or taking space teaches others that your presence is negotiable. Instead, offer correction through calm acknowledgement, not emotional surrender. You can say, "That wasn't my intention," or "I see your point," and still maintain power. The key is emotional steadiness. Your apology should sound like an act of leadership, not desperation. Third, laughing too loud or too often. This one cuts deep because humor is socially rewarded. But Machiavelli would say laughter is a currency of alliance. When you give it too freely, you signal that you're desperate to bond. The powerful laugh selectively. They let others work for their amusement. Excessive laughter, especially at others' jokes or to fill silence, makes you appear low status. It's a public display of compliance, a signal that you fear disconnection more than you value composure. This doesn't mean you should become robotic. It means you should protect your joy like it's valuable. When your laughter carries intention, it becomes influence. People notice when they've earned it. Fourth, over-nodding or seeking validation. Pay attention to how often your head moves when someone speaks. Most people nod compulsively, not because they agree, but because they're terrified of being seen as disinterested. But to Machiavelli, constant agreement was a dangerous habit. It revealed a servant's mind. You can listen deeply without signaling submission. Stillness in conversation makes people second-guess their assumptions about you. It creates a sense of mystery. Are you impressed, skeptical, or indifferent? They don't know, and that uncertainty makes them cautious. You become someone to impress, not to convince. The goal is not to look cold, but to look discerning. When people realize you don't reward every word with affirmation, your approval becomes rare, and therefore powerful. Fifth, being too predictable in reactions. One of Machiavelli's most cunning lessons was to never let others fully read you. Predictability is comfort, and comfort makes you easy to manipulate. Think about it. If everyone knows exactly how you'll respond to anger, flattery, or stress, they can control you with precision. The person who remains emotionally consistent but strategically unpredictable keeps others on edge. That's what keeps power alive. It's not always strength. It's the fear of not knowing. So next time someone tries to provoke you publicly, delay your reaction. Let silence hang for a second longer than usual. That pause will make them question whether they've just crossed a line they shouldn't have. In that moment, without raising your voice, you've shifted control. You'll notice something. All 5 of these behaviors share a common thread. They're rooted in fear of disconnection. Fear of seeming rude, distant, or disliked. But Machiavelli saw that fear as the very chain that binds most people to mediocrity. In public, the more you chase belonging, the more you reveal need. The powerful, on the other hand, create belonging by offering selective warmth. Their restraint draws others in, like a quiet flame in a cold room. Every one of these cautions may seem small, a laugh here, an apology there. But that's how influence decays, one harmless habit at a time. Public spaces are like mirrors that distort. People don't just see what you show, they interpret what you leak. If your body language whispers insecurity while your words shout confidence, they'll believe the whisper. That's why Machiavelli emphasized not charm, but control, not the illusion of strength, but the discipline of silence. The next time you walk into a room, don't think about how to impress anyone. Think about what not to reveal. Your composure, your stillness, your minimal explanations, all of these become signals that you belong to yourself, not to the crowd. And the crowd, sensing that independence, begins to orbit around you. The moment they feel they can't easily predict you, they start to respect you. The moment they realize your attention is rare, they start to crave it. This is the foundation of true presence. Before charisma, before strategy, before any spoken word, comes restraint. That's what Machiavelli taught. Power doesn't announce itself, it withholds. And what you withhold in public determines how the world calculates your worth. There's a certain kind of person who walks into a room and instantly lowers the temperature. Not because they're rude or arrogant, but because they leak too much of themselves. They talk too much, explain too much, display too much. Every thought becomes public property. They mistake transparency for trust, and in doing so, they give away the only advantage power ever has: mystery. Machiavelli warned that those who expose their soul in public soon find themselves ruled by people who never even showed their face. The 6th behavior to avoid is sharing personal struggles in public spaces. We live in an age where people confuse vulnerability with strength, thinking that being open automatically earns respect. But Machiavelli would have called that a miscalculation. When you share too much, especially pain, you teach others exactly how to move you. You give them your blueprint. The cold truth is that most people don't care as much as they pretend. They simply file that information away for later. There's a time and place for honesty, but not every setting deserves your depth. Speak of your wounds only where trust has been earned, not where gossip can grow. The modern Machiavellian keeps emotional privacy sacred, not because they fear judgment, but because they understand that mystery sustains respect. 7th, defending yourself in front of crowds. This is one of the most common traps people fall into. Someone questions your motives, mocks you publicly, or spreads half-truths, and your instinct is to correct them, to protect your image. But in public settings, defense rarely restores reputation. It amplifies doubt. The moment you start explaining yourself to a crowd, the accuser becomes the author of the story. Machiavelli advised rulers to let false accusations rot on their own. The wise understand that silence makes rumors look small. Outrage makes them look real. Defend your name through your results, not your reactions. Let time and excellence speak while you remain composed. The crowd will remember who panicked and who didn't. Eighth, mocking others casually. It's easy to disguise cruelty as humor. People laugh. It feels powerful. But what's really happening is exposure. You've shown that your confidence depends on belittling others. Machiavelli believed ridicule is a blade that cuts both ways. It harms your target, yes, but it also reveals your own insecurity. When you mock, you admit that you needed an audience to validate your superiority. The powerful don't seek laughter at someone else's expense. They let others destroy themselves through their own foolishness. The next time you're tempted to make a joke that puts someone beneath you, stop. Let your silence make them irrelevant instead. Dignity will always outlast amusement. Ninth, constantly checking your phone in public. It sounds harmless, but it's one of the clearest modern signals of low control. It shows the world that you're addicted to validation, even when you're physically surrounded by people. You're there, but not really. Machiavelli might not have known smartphones, but he understood distraction. He warned against rulers who lost focus to comfort, because distraction weakens perception. Every time you reach for your phone mid-conversation, you announce that your attention is cheap, and cheap attention never commands respect. The simple act of not touching your phone while others can see you has become rare, and rarity is the foundation of status. Let others scroll. You observe. They consume. You calculate. 10th, trying to dominate conversations. There's a difference between presence and pressure. When you dominate discussions, interrupt others, or always have the final word, you may feel in control. But what you're actually doing is broadcasting insecurity. You're showing that silence threatens you, that you fear irrelevance. Machiavelli taught that the most dangerous man in the room is the one who listens and measures. Speaking too much is like showing your entire hand before the game starts. When you hold back, people start filling in the blanks themselves. And ironically, they imagine you as far more intelligent than you might even be. The goal is not to own every conversation. It's to make every word you do speak land with weight. Let's pause for a second here, not to summarize, but to look beneath these 5. They all orbit around one thing: overexposure. Whether it's oversharing, defending, mocking, distracting, or dominating, it's the same disease: too much signal, not enough silence. People think visibility is power, but Machiavelli knew it's the opposite. Power lives in scarcity. The less you reveal, the more people project onto you. The more they project, the more influence you quietly gain. The average person in public behaves like an open book. You can read their insecurity on their face, their need for recognition in their tone, their hunger for control in their interruptions. The Machiavellian mind, however, operates like a locked diary, polite, calm, and unreadable. They allow others to wonder what's inside but never confirm it. That curiosity turns into respect, and eventually into quiet fear. If you want to see how this principle works, watch the people who lead without titles. They don't speak often, but when they do, the room stills. They don't seek eyes. Eyes find them. Their posture says, "I don't need to be understood," and that alone makes people crave their understanding. You don't have to play cold or superior to reach this point. You just have to master one law. In public, give people less of you than they expect. Most people are desperate to be seen. The powerful are comfortable being slightly misunderstood, because mystery is not confusion, it's control. And the moment people stop being able to fully predict you, they start respecting you on instinct. Machiavelli would have said it this way: the one who controls the perception controls the power, and perception is built not by words but by what you leave unsaid. There's a pattern you'll start to notice once you train your eye for it. Those who fall from grace in public almost always did it to themselves. They weren't sabotaged by enemies or exposed by rivals. They were undone by small, careless leaks of ego. You can trace their downfall back to moments that looked harmless at the time: a brag, a burst of emotion, a misplaced moral speech. Machiavelli studied these collapses and understood something most people still don't. Ruin begins with visibility, and the next 5 public behaviors show exactly how it happens. The 11th, publicly seeking credit or recognition. This one feels almost natural because modern life rewards visibility. We're taught that if you don't show your success, it doesn't exist. But Machiavelli would laugh at that idea. When you publicly demand acknowledgement, whether through words, hints, or exaggerated self-praise, you reveal an insecurity that powerful people can smell from a distance. The truly confident don't chase applause. They let their silence make people talk. The moment you look like you need validation, you become someone who can be controlled through it. When you're overlooked, say nothing. When you're praised, say even less. Let curiosity do your PR for you. The world always overestimates those who seem too composed to brag. 12th, arguing to be right instead of respected. There's no quicker way to lose influence than to win a public argument the wrong way. People rarely remember who had the better logic, they remember who carried themselves with authority. Machiavelli taught that perception often matters more than truth. You can win a debate and still lose the audience if you look emotionally desperate to prove your point. The wise learn when to surrender the appearance of victory for the preservation of dominance. Sometimes silence wounds more than rebuttal. The man who doesn't defend every accusation looks like he knows something others don't. That's the kind of authority you can't fake. 13th, showing emotional reactions instantly. Everyone believes they're composed until someone presses the right button. That's the real test of control. When anger, irritation, or embarrassment flashes across your face in public, you've revealed your trigger points, and anyone observant enough can now use them to move you like a puppet. Machiavelli warned that your enemies should never know what delights or disturbs you. Both are forms of leverage. Train yourself to delay reaction, not suppress emotion, but delay its exposure. A few seconds of pause before you respond will make others question whether you're calm or calculating. Both interpretations work in your favor. 14th, being loud about morality. This one destroys reputations faster than scandals. People who preach their moral purity in public believe they're earning admiration, but what they're really doing is setting a trap for themselves. The louder you declare your goodness, the more people begin watching for your hypocrisy. Machiavelli understood that humans are naturally flawed, self-interested, and contradictory, and pretending otherwise invites destruction. The wise don't announce their virtue. They act with quiet consistency and let others infer it. Every moral exhibitionist eventually drowns in their own spotlight. The powerful, on the other hand, protect their reputation by staying just mysterious enough that no one knows where to aim the stone. 15th, displaying envy or bitterness in public. This might be the most revealing one of all, because envy exposes hierarchy. The moment you show bitterness towards someone else's success, you announce that you've placed them above you. Envy signals dependence. It says, "You have something I can't create." Machiavelli would advise to convert envy into study. Instead of reacting emotionally, dissect how they got it, what they did differently, and how you can outmaneuver them later. Public resentment makes you look powerless. Private analysis makes you dangerous. The goal is not to appear emotionless, but to appear untouchable. Bitterness is cheap. Silence, meanwhile, looks like strategy. When you think about these 15 behaviors together, a theme emerges. The public world rewards those who can remain emotionally disciplined. It's not about pretending to be perfect. It's about mastering contrast. You must learn to be internally alive, but externally still. That's how power operates. The people who appear calm are often boiling inside, but they never let the crowd taste their emotion. Machiavelli believed that restraint is not weakness. It's weaponry. The more unpredictable your expression, the harder it is for others to build a map of your mind. Consider how kings and politicians handle attention. The ones who seem invincible don't constantly prove themselves. They appear detached, even indifferent. Their distance breeds speculation, and speculation breeds myth. When people can't read you, they start to project onto you. Some will see you as kind, others as ruthless, but all will agree that you hold control. That's the psychology of power in public. You don't need to be flawless. You just need to be unreadable long enough for others to guess wrong. And there's another layer to this. In Machiavelli's world, public behavior wasn't just social, it was political. Every interaction could be an opportunity or a trap. Smiling at the wrong person, defending the wrong friend, or speaking a little too freely could shift alliances overnight. Today, the same rule applies, just in subtler ways. Every room, workplace, or online post is a mini-court. Every gesture is interpreted for rank. The difference between power and embarrassment often comes down to 1 second of composure, or the lack of it. So, if you ever wonder how to appear powerful without saying a word, remember this. Control the tempo of your exposure. Speak slower than others expect. React later than they predict. Reveal less than they want. Each of these micro-delays plants seeds of respect because they signal inner stability. People crave leaders who don't get pulled by noise. You become that presence by resisting the same impulses that rule everyone else. And it's in public where this resistance matters most, because private strength doesn't matter until it's tested in the open. Anyone can look composed alone. The challenge is to look untouchable when the room turns against you. Machiavelli would say, that's when your true education begins. When you can walk through chaos and leave no emotional footprint behind, you've become more than liked. You've become untouchable.